So one of the things that goes on with parental alienation is that the longer it goes on, the more angry the kids become. They miss the parent that they're being alienated from, and they become more and more angry as time goes on because, eventually they start to realize what the alienated parent knows the whole time, which is that you're never going to get that time back. There's not some point in the future where 5-year-old you is going to get to be with your dad, or 7-year-old you is going to get to be with your dad. There may be a time when 8-year-old you gets to be with your dad, or 6-year-old you gets to be with your dad, but that time when you're 5 and 7, if you're being alienated, that time's gone forever. And as the kids get more aware of it, and as that reality sets in more harshly, they get more and more angry. And they can't be angry at the parent who's doing the alienation because they're with them every day. They'd just be in a constant rage all the time if they were angry at the actual perpetrator. So to protect themselves, they have to focus that anger on the parent who's not there. Even though in the majority of these cases, it's not the parent who's not there who's at fault. It's usually the parent who is there who's doing the alienation. And I've read all the studies about this, and this is, I knew all of this was coming. I knew how this was going to play out as soon as I read the studies. It's one of the reasons why I've been fighting so hard this whole time to end the alienation, because I know how damaging it is to kids, because I read all the studies, and I know how damaging it is over the long term, how it's worse the longer it goes, which is why I've been fighting every day and every way to get it back and to end the abuse of 2 innocent kids, basically. And so anyway, the net result is, as they get more and more angry at the parent who's not there, because that's their only recourse, really, they become part of the alienation themselves, and they actually start alienating themselves from the parent. So, like, if all they get is a phone call, then they'll cut the phone call short. If all they get is a video chat, they'll cut the video chat short. During the actual visit, they'll play by themselves and not engage with the parent, because it's in a lot of ways it's too painful to have that involvement with the parent and then know that it's just temporary, and that you're going to be alienated from them again as soon as the visit's over, as soon as the phone call's over, for who knows how long. There was a period of time for me where I didn't get to see my daughter for almost 6 months. I didn't get to talk to her, see her, nothing for almost 6 months straight. So, for her, there's almost no way for her to reconcile her reality with a situation where she can rely on somebody who could just be gone for 6 months. And, and again, not her fault, not my fault. We know whose fault it is, but we're the victims. And ultimately, when she gets older, there's a very good likelihood that she'll understand what has occurred, and the anger will be directed at the proper person. But that doesn't really help anybody. In fact, in a lot of ways, that just makes the whole situation worse when that occurs later on. But it is very likely to occur for both of these kids. And the kids won't video chat with me now. They just beat me up at the visits. This is all stuff that I knew was going to occur because I've read all the papers about parental alienation. This is a common thing in this country. It's a common thing globally. And It's not like these are unknown quantities. We know what happens in parental alienation. We know how it happens. We know who are the victims. We know who is the abuser. And it's really bizarre to me that in this country we're so complacent about it. And that so many people are still using language like deadbeat dad. Like somebody's going to say deadbeat dad when, this is a guy who's gone through like huge and horrendous trauma. For no other reason than, in a lot of cases, he didn't want to be cheated on. Or even worse, certainly in my case, I read all the papers about how bad it was for the kids to witness one of their parents being cheated on. And I knew that I couldn't tolerate that, because it would make it more likely that when they got older and they were in a relationship, that they would be okay with being cheated on. And that's not something that I want for them. That's obviously hugely psychologically damaging all the way around. And so that's why I didn't really have a choice. I mean, I've never had a choice this whole time. As soon as I read any of these papers about what was going on, I've just been doing the best that I could for my kids according to the scientific literature. And that's all I've been doing since Everett was in utero. And the fact that our system is so toxic and so bad for parents and kids in every way, I mean, it should be no surprise. Our food is super toxic. Our, quote, medicine is super toxic. Our education system is super toxic. Our media is super toxic. Our political system is super toxic. Our legal system is super toxic. So it should come as no surprise that our legal system regarding family law is just as toxic as all the rest. And it's just awful, and I'm just keeping a record of it because that's all I can do. Going back to court every single opportunity I get, which is hugely costly, and time and actual capital. It's very, very expensive to go to court over and over and over again in 3 different states, just to have the right to see your own children. And bear in mind, I have no criminal record of any kind. Parking tickets, whatever, like super minor infractions. I have no serious criminal record of any kind. And the other party does too. That's the even more egregious part. If both parties had a clean record and the judges continually sided with one, I mean, it would be a little bit more understandable. When somebody has a serious criminal record, numerous infractions, serious infractions, and the judges keep siding with that individual who's also now been abusing the children for 2 years and also abusing their ex for 2 years, it's really hard to reconcile that anybody's making that choice. And I mean, it's unbelievable. Everett and Grace, I love you. I don't know when you see this in the future, just know I was out here fighting every single day, and I'm sorry you didn't want to video chat with me. I'm sorry I didn't make that easier for you in whatever way I could have. I really have tried to incentivize it for your benefit in every way, and I love you both, and I'm sorry.